So in what appears to be a world record, the chair will call the meeting to order. We have reached a quorum and then some at last count, and I think we're still counting. We reached we had 271 registered voters. A quorum is 150, so obviously that's sufficient. As we do at every meeting, the chair would ask the chairperson of the select board to lead the meeting in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the chair would like to welcome you to this meeting. We won't ask for a show of hands or who's new, but I expect that there are several people here, and maybe more than several, who this is their first meeting, so we welcome you. We hope you come back. It is democracy in its purest form. The chair always reminds everyone at every opportunity that the 6 New England states are the only states in the country that have this pure form of democracy where the town voters are the legislative body. It's not a town council, it's not a mayor, it's not representative form of government. So we're glad you're here. We have something like 18,000 registered voters. The chair wishes there were more, but we're glad to get you folks here, and we hope it's educating and productive and informative. As we do at every meeting, the chair would like to take a moment to recognize those who have served the town in some capacity or another and who have passed away in the past year. And unfortunately, this year, there's a fairly long list. And they include Donald Iacovone, on-call firefighter, Christine Riley from the assessing department, Bob Reardon, a friend that many know very well, who served this town as a tree warden, fire department underwater recovery team, conservation commission member, and an all-around gentleman who passed away last year. Al Supple, council on aging driver, Doug Irish, Pembroke Fire Department, Bob Digger Dorsey, constable, Irma Wall, American Legion Auxiliary, election worker, Marilyn Dion, library trustee, Ken Gerton, chair, I had the pleasure of serving with Ken on the advisory board for many years. He also served in the Council on Aging Board. Susan Roach, of course, our past recreation director. Joseph Ryan, Council on Aging Board and driver. Michelle Dowling, ZBA assistant. And Marie Frederico, school department and Friends of the Council on Aging. And the chair would ask if we just pause a moment and remember them and their family in our prayers. Thank you. As you may have seen walking in, we have 2 booths out in the lobby, and every year a fun group, and they are a fun group, of Pembroke residents put on Pembroke Celebrates with fireworks. This year it will be Saturday, September 16th at the Pembroke High School. Family tailgating from 5 to 8, and fireworks go off at 8 p.m. The committee is working hard to secure donations, sponsorships, and vendors, and they're soliciting them at the table outside in the lobby. And to see how you can help, you can go to pembrokecelebrates.com and like them on Facebook. Also, as is the case at every meeting, special and annual meeting, the Key Club is selling just what we need to get through a long night: caffeine and sugar. And I asked for a quick explanation of the Key Club because the Key Club has been providing that service along with many other services for many years. And probably many of us don't know what the Key Club is and what they do. So they are a student-led service organization that aims to promote leadership, character building, and community service among high school students. It is a part of the Kiwanis International family of organizations. Key Club members organize and participate in a wide range of service projects and fundraising events in the Pembroke community. Some examples of Key Club events this year have included selling Christmas trees at the Herring Run to raise money for scholarships, packaging meals for those in need at the outreach program, and volunteering at events like the Fish Fry and Pembroke Celebrates. So we thank them for their service, and the chair would also like to take a moment to thank someone special for her service. For many years, I think since 1976, Carol Dodge, who's not a relation, but a good friend and a mentor to me in all things, has been out there selling. And She's retiring not from public activity by any stretch of the imagination, but from selling the Key Club. Carol has been attending town meetings since 1970. I think she served on 3 school committees, maybe all at the same time, regional, elementary, Pembroke Collaborative, and she has missed about a half dozen town meetings in all those years. And we're not talking about years. Many may remember that in the years past, town meetings went several evenings. So she's only missed in all that time about a half dozen town meetings. And that was due, I think, to good reasons, like having kids or being sick. So anyway, the chair would just like to take a moment to acknowledge a good friend and a great contributor to our town, Carol Dodge. Carol. Thank you. Chair would remind you that if you do not have a copy of the town warrant, please raise your hand. We have plenty available. You'll need that as we go through the articles. So just raise your hand if you don't have one, and one of the tellers will get them to you. The chair would also like to thank several students from the high school who have offered babysitting services. It's something we started a number of years ago. We kind of rejuvenated it last year. It's a great help to those parents who have young kids, so they can attend the meeting, and they're babysitting in the library. So the chair wants to thank them for their services. And without going through the names individually, but to the chair's right and your left are the hardworking members of the advisory committee. Town council is right in front of the chair, Carol Murray from KP Law, Bill Chenard, our town manager, and to the left are the select board members, and that's all planning board members over there to your right. And we had anticipated we might need to use the cafeteria for an overflow. We deputized Steve Curley as a deputy moderator. We've used that in the past, but that is not being used. It is the visitor section, so everybody in this auditorium is a registered voter. Any visitors must sit in the cafeteria. I'm incorrect? Well, other than town officials for town business. Okay, we have visitors who are tagged, who are here for specific reasons. Tagged, is that the right word? Wearing wristbands or whatever. But everyone who's in here is either a visitor or a registered, an authorized visitor, registered voter. We highly recommend visitors. We've had many of them in the past. Sometimes they've been kids during schoolwork, but traditionally they were sitting in the back here, but we've moved that visitor section to the cafeteria. The chair is satisfied that the warrant has been duly posted, so the chair will dispense with the reading of the warrant. And just a couple of other notes before we get started. There are some articles that perhaps could be controversial, and a standing vote is always in order, and a paper ballot is always in order. We have put the new Eveready batteries in the calculator. We know how to calculate what 2/3 is, should that be an issue. Some votes do require a 2/3. On a standing vote, obviously, you'll stand, the voters will count. If there is a call, and it's up to the meeting to decide, if there is a call for a paper ballot, we are ready. We will have boxes in the front, we'll have ushers up the side, and there'll be yeses and nos. You'll put them in the same box, and then we'll proceed to count. And that is up to the meeting to decide if the meeting wants to have a standing count. One item that we learned a couple of years ago is that people like to congregate in the back, and that's fine. But on any vote, that's not a show of hands, so a standing vote, we will not commence voting until everybody is seated. So if you were standing at the back in the lobby, you have to come in and be seated, and we won't start voting. And the intent is to make sure everybody's counted fairly. And the intent, quite frankly, also is to make sure that people feel comfortable about the integrity of the vote. We had some issues a couple of meetings ago. The chair doesn't want to repeat those. So we want to make sure everybody realizes or knows that appreciates the fact that the meeting is, that the vote is correct. And if you are new and you have not been to a meeting before, again, we welcome you. There are 2 microphones on either side. You have to speak from the microphone. And we just ask that you give your name and your address. And that's so that if you say something profound, the reporters who are covering it can quote you correctly. And if you make a motion, the town clerk knows who you are. So we just ask, even if you think everybody knows who you are, we just ask that you mention your name and your street. And if it's difficult for you to get to the microphone, then we'll certainly get one to you, so you don't have to crawl over everybody. The only exception to speaking from the microphone is if you wish to ask for a point of order, and the chair is very liberal in what a point of order is. It'd be, Mr. Moderator, I don't understand what the vote is, I can't hear, I can't see, or some other procedural motion. Just raise your hand, shout as loud as you can, Mr. Moderator, point of order, and I'll recognize you from the floor. Other than that, I'll recognize people in the order in which they stand at the microphone. And the chair would also ask, there's a lot of important business at this meeting, and one would argue that everything's important. The budget's important, even the smallest transfer articles are important. So there are some issues that obviously draw more people to the meeting, and that's fine, but we ask that if you stay for the meeting, every article is important, and the worst thing that could happen is for everyone to leave after a particular vote, and then someone questions the quorum and we can't continue the business. And that's happened in the past. Just so you know, the quorum is 150 to start, but once we start the meeting, it's 100 to continue the meeting. And with that, there's just one item of business. If the chair can find the proper motion. And so there are many votes at town meeting that require a 2/3, and this has been a tradition that the chair asks for you to give the chair permission to declare a 2/3, and the chair would only do that when it's not close. So in many cases, we require a 2/3, and we'll do a show of hands. If it's very clear that it's a 2/3, the chair will declare it a 2/3. If it's at all close, the chair always goes to a standing vote. And you can question the moderator on a show of hands. But you need to give the chair permission to do that. So Mr. Trabucco moves that if a 2/3 vote is required by statute, the moderator is authorized to declare a 2/3 vote if, after a show of hands, the moderator determines that the 2/3 majority has been reached, provided, however, that if a vote so declared is immediately questioned by 7 or more voters, the moderator shall verify the 2/3 majority by ordering a standing count of the yeas and nays. Is there a second? Second. Chair has second. Any questions or debate? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. We're up to 297, so we're just shy of 300, so that's great. So as you know, we have the lottery system. We use the high-tech ping pong balls here to draw which article will come up, with the exception of Articles 1 and 2, which are the wage and personnel scale and the budget. By town bylaw, we do those items first, and then we go to the bucket. So the first article is, item of business is Article 1, the wage and classification plan, and the chair recognizes Steve Walsh from Advisory Committee.
Move that the town amend Schedule A, B, C, and D of the classification and compensation bylaws according to the schedule listed in printed in Appendix A of the 2023 annual town meeting warrant, and to raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $10,738 to fund the changes, and further authorize the town accountant to allocate those funds to the appropriate budget items voted under Article 2 of this meeting. Such changes will take effect effective July 1 of 2023.
Motion's been made and seconded, so the chair would ask you to turn to Appendix A, which is at the back of the warrant, and we will take a separate vote on each schedule. And as you can see from Appendix A, the schedules stipulate the hourly rate and the annual salary depending on the position. So the first item we'll take is Schedule A, which is the annual salary for full-time officers and employees. And as is the case with any item, budget items, if there is it is your choice if you want to amend it. So the chair always allows amendments as long as they're within the scope of the article. So even though we go through these fairly quickly, that doesn't preclude anyone from asking a question or offering an amendment. So on Schedule 1, seeing no questions or debate, all those in favor of Schedule A, I'm sorry, not Schedule 1, Schedule A as printed in the warrant, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Schedule B, which is the appointed part-time officers and employees. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Schedule C, which is full and part-time employees' hourly wages. Are there any discussion? Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of Schedule C as printed in the warrant, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. And Schedule D, which is the annual salary for elected full-time and part-time officials. Is there any question? Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of Schedule C as printed in the warrant, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 2 is the next item of business. And the chair recognizes the chairperson of the advisory committee, Linda Peterson.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town appropriate the sum of $72,633,276 to fund the operating expenses of the town for the fiscal year 2024, as listed under Appendix B of the 2023 Annual Town Meeting Warrant, column headed FY 2024 Request, and to fund this appropriation, raise and appropriate from taxation the sum of $70,070,372 and transfer the following sums. Capital Stabilization Fund, $35,000. Ambulance Fund, $1,035,710. Septic Loan Program, $71,165. Recreation Revolving, $53,471. Council on Aging Transportation, $71,116. School Athletic Fund, $69,375. School Construction Funds, $73,360. Water Enterprise Indirect, $517,641. Solid Waste Enterprise Indirect, $59,291. Cemetery Trust Funds, $22,150. Regional ACO, $54,625. Overlay Release, $350,000, and free cash, $150,000.
So the motion by Linda Peterson has been made and seconded. She has made the main motion and indicated where the source of the funding will be, but we do need to vote on the budget, and we do that traditionally by department. So if you turn to Appendix B at the back of your warrant, the chair will do this fairly quickly and just ask for yeas and nays, but once again, if there is a question or an amendment, please shout out and the chair will recognize you. So the first item is Moderator Personal Services, $100. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Select Board, Personal Services Elected, $9,000. Personal Services, $201,542. General Expenses, $12,600. Audit Services, $49,500. Pond Treatment, $60,000. South Shore Community Action Council, $5,000. Is there any question or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town Manager, Personal Services, $166,498. General Expenses, $3,600. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Advisory Committee, Personal Services, $6,000. General Expenses, $550. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Reserve Fund for transfers, $75,000. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town Accountant, Personal Services, $180,890. General expenses, $47,315. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Board of Assessors, Personal Services elected, $5,400. Personal Services, $261,745. General expenses, $62,835. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Treasurer Collector, Personal Services, $405,043. General expenses, $86,350. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Legal Purchase of Services, $105,000. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Information Technology, Personal Services, 120, chair is in error. General expenses, $122,500. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town Clerk, Personal Services elected, $94,869. Personal Services, $54,503. General expenses, $12,450. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Elections. Personal Services, $14,500. General expenses, $20,700. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Registrations, Personal Services, $8,000. General expenses, $4,650. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Conservation Commission, general expenses, $900. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Planning Board, Personal Services, general expenses, $2,750. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Zoning Board of Appeals, general expenses, $2,500. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town Building Maintenance, Personal Services, $206,129. General expenses, $113,625. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Police Department, Personal Services, $4,258,174. General expenses, $336,580. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Fire Department, Personal Services, $3,971,187. General expenses, $173,315. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. Inspectional Services, Personal Services, $509,938. General expenses, $19,425. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Emergency Management, Personal Services, $4,250. General expenses, $10,250. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Animal Control Officer, Personal Services, $81,250. General expenses, $15,786. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Public Works, Personal Services, $1,121,175. General expenses, $357,529. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Snow and Ice, Snow and Sanding, $185,000. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Townwide Utilities, general expenses, $221,350. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Board of Health, general expenses, $26,850. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Council on Aging, Personal Services, $272,668. General expenses, $43,500. Senior Tax Program, $5,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Veteran Services, Personal Services, $77,461. General expenses, $22,100. General Relief, $115,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Commission on Disabilities, general expenses, $500. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Library, personal services, $613,575. General expenses, $89,020. Books, $92,500. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Lydia Drake Library, $5,300, general expenses. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Recreation Commission, personal services, $123,431. General expenses, $12,100. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Community Center, general expenses, $14,950. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Herring Fisheries, general expenses, $1,845. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town Landing, personal services, $44,000. General expenses, $1,580. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Town Clock Winder, and the chair is informed there are several other towns, and perhaps many other towns, that have town clock winders, but none like Pembroke's. $1,587. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it nonetheless. Town Memorial Committee, general expenses, $9,650. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Plymouth County Cooperative, general expenses, $110. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Historical Commission, general expenses, $1,025. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. And the ayes have it. Last page. Maturing debt principal, $871,424. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Maturing debt from excluded debt, general expenses, $2,150,000. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Maturing debt interest, $205,816. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Maturing debt interest, general expenses, $758,976. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Short-term interest, general expenses, $37,737. Excuse me. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Retirement general expenses, $4,803,392. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Unemployment compensation general expenses, $95,000. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Health insurance general expenses, $9,479,927. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Life insurance general expenses, $20,000. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Medicare tax general expenses, $625,000. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Property liability insurance, general expenses, $765,000. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. School general funds, $37,600,000. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. And since there are no amendments, I don't think we need to take a final vote. We've voted on all the line items. So now we will go to the lottery box. And the first number is Article 7. And the chair recognizes Sandy Beaton from Advisory Committee.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town appropriate from the Community Preservation Fiscal Year 24 estimated annual revenues the amounts recommended by the Community Preservation Committee as set forth in the warrant, with each item to be considered as a separate appropriation. Appropriations. From Fiscal Year 24 estimated revenues for the Historic Resources Reserve, $50,000. From the Fiscal Year 24 estimated revenues for Community Housing Reserve, $50,000. From the Fiscal Year 24 estimated revenues for Open Space Reserve, $50,000, and from the Fiscal Year 24 estimated revenues for the Committee Administrative Expenses, $20,000, and further to appropriate any remaining Community Preservation Fund Fiscal Year 24 estimated revenues to the Community Preservation Fund Annual Budgeted Reserve.
The motion has been made by Sandy Beaton. It's been seconded. Was it seconded? Seconded. Any discussion on this item, which is a fairly routine item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. And before we go to the next item, the chair was remiss in thanking PAC TV for their coverage of this meeting, as well as their great service to the town and surrounding communities. For those who are watching at home or would like to watch at home, don't leave. The town meeting is broadcast live on Comcast Channel 15, and it is streaming online at pactv.org. And if you really want to see it again, you can see it anytime you want by just going to pactv.org. So once again, thank you to Julie and the PAC TV folks. Next item of business is Article 12. And the chair recognizes the chairperson of the Planning Board, Alicia Siciliano Perry.
Thank you. Right. Move to amend the Town of Pembroke zoning bylaw, Section 4, Use and Dimension Regulations, subsection 5, Industrial District A, and 5A, Industrial District B, and Section 5, Special Provisions, Standards, and Procedures, subsection 14, by deleting the strike-through text and inserting the bold underlined text as printed in the annual town meeting warrant.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, just takes a simple...
Hi,
If you could state your name.
I'm Susan Brown from Barker Street.
Chair recognizes Susan Brown.
I'm a little concerned with some of the wording where it's changing from where the approval is different, where it's going to be a site plan approval as opposed to special permit, and why that is being changed.
Chair recognizes Alicia Siciliano Perry.
We have to make these changes by law under the state of Massachusetts. There's a new law. It's called MBTA zoning. So by us just making those minor modifications to our existing bylaws, we're able to be in compliance, with the state as well.
See
Okay,
that? I
you just have
didn't
to
see
speak-
that when I read.
You just have to speak through the chair, so you have to be recognized. So chair recognizes Susan Brown.
I'm sorry. I did read the bylaw of where it was passed by the Bolito, the last people, I can't think of it, Baker Commission, where they passed it. And it didn't say anything in there about changing the approvals, the permits.
The chair recognizes Alicia Siciliano Perry.
The law says that it has to be by right, so we have to take out by special permit. And by making it by site plan approval, we still have some overseeing and regulations that we're able to maintain our approval from the planning board, and rather than just being by right.
No,
So, okay, so we can't allow a lot of debate, but we'll answer if you have questions, certainly. Chair recognizes Susan Brown.
sorry, one more question. Also, where the water rights are being changed from 70,000 square feet to 36,500, I was concerned about the water rights on there also, where they can build closer to wetlands.
Chair recognizes Chairman. Chair.
So we still have to comply with wetland protection, so we still have to meet those standard setbacks. There's no real change in any of that.
The wording
Well, okay,
had,
so these are good questions, and the chair will allow them. And the chair, as an error, said earlier, we don't want a lot of debate. That's not the case. It just can't be a debating
I'm sorry.
back and forth, for an extended period of time. But you're asking good questions, so the chair recognizes Susan Brown.
I was just concerned about the water rights, but thank you. I just wanted everybody to be aware that that was a change also.
Town council is the one that made all of the wording changes to make us in compliance with the state.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So this, your warrant says majority vote, but there's some question about whether this should be majority or two-thirds. So we're going to do it by a show of hands, and if it appears to be not close, then the chair will declare it a two-thirds. You gave me the power, the chair, power to do that at the beginning of the meeting. If it looks at all close, then we'll have to do a standing vote. So on the motion by the chairperson of Planning Board on Article 12, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the chair declares having reached the two-thirds necessary for passage. Town council okay with that? Okay. Thank you. Well, we can't, unfortunately, unless it's a point of order. We're finished, sorry. The next item of business is Article 13. And the chair recognizes Christy Cullinan from Advisory Committee.
Mr. Moderator, I move to amend the vote taken under Article 23 of the October 19th, 2010 special town meeting to change the name of the Recycling Committee to the Recycling and Sustainability Committee, and further, to strike the words recommendations regarding the design, operation, record-keeping, and contractual obligation related to the recycling center, and replace them with public education and projects aimed at resource management and conservation efforts with outreach focus areas to include waste reduction and recycling, home efficiency tips, including power and water, eco-friendly home and lawn maintenance and gardening, home chemical and pesticide alternatives, and home resource conservation education.
Motion by Christie has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, takes a simple majority. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Okay, we'll do it by a show of hands, which is what the chair should have done in the first place. All those in favor of the motion by Christie on Article 13, please raise your hands. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. We have a special meeting that is always within the annual, so the chair will accept a motion by the chair of the Board of Selectmen, Dan Trabucco, to recess this meeting. And is there a second? We'll come back to it after the special, 2 articles on the special. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. And the chair would ask that you go to the back of your warrant where there are 2 articles on the special town meeting. And for those who may be new, the annual town meeting has to do with anything for the next fiscal year, for the most part. The special is for items that pertain to this current fiscal year, which ends June 30th. State your point of order.
Could you please say where that special town meeting articles are on the back of the warrant line?
Perfect. And that's what a point of order is all about. The first article is Article 2. And the chair recognizes Steve Walsh from Advisory.
Move that the town appropriate a sum of $62,707 by transferring $60,068 from the overlay surplus and $2,639 from water retained earnings to fund the first 2 years' cost items in the new collective bargaining agreement between the Town of Pembroke and AFSCME Local 1700 Clerical Unit, and for the period from July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2023, and further authorize the town accountant to allocate the funds to the appropriate budget items and personnel in such amount as are proper and required.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 1. The chair recognizes Bob Kenny from Advisory.
Moderator, I make a move that the sum of 52,000, sorry. Mr. Moderator, I move that a sum of $52,000 be appropriated to supplement fiscal year 2023 appropriations and to fund these supplements, that $12,000 be transferred from free cash to elections and that $40,000 be transferred from free cash to the Medicare tax.
Motion has been made and seconded by Bob. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed, no, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. And Dan Trabucco moves that the special town meeting be recessed. Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and we will go back to the annual town meeting. Article 8. Chair recognizes John Scholl from Advisory Committee.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town authorize fiscal year 24 spending limits for the revolving accounts pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, as printed in Article 8 of the annual town meeting warrant.
It has been made and seconded. It's a fairly routine warrant article, but it's up to you. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 9. Chair recognizes Bob Kenny, whose first meeting, is this your first meeting, Bob? Second? No, okay. Maybe not even be sorry. Chair recognizes Bob Kenny from Advisory.
Mr. Moderator, I make a move that the town appropriate the sum of $26,153 by transferring $24,632 from the overlay surplus and $1,521 from the water retained earnings to fund the third-year cost items of the new collective bargaining agreement between the Town of Pembroke and the AFSCME Local 1700 Clerical Unit for the period of July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 4. And the chair recognizes once again Christy Cullinane from Advisory.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town appropriate the sum of $2,310,880 from solid waste revenues to fund the fiscal year 2024 Solid Waste Enterprise Fund, as shown in Appendix D of the 2023 Annual Town Meeting warrant.
We'll see the motion's been made, seconded? I didn't hear a second. Motion's been made and seconded by Christie. Chair recognizes former Advisory Committee member Matt McNeil.
Street East in Pembroke. Mr. Chairman, I would just be asking as to what the additional cost is in the 2024 if in fact our annual premium for solid waste pickup is going to be affected. Previously, we had heard about bowling balls and recycling, all of these materials that were formerly in recycling that didn't belong in recycling, and that was the gist of the salary increase. So I'm just looking to find out if we can get an explanation as to the increase, please.
Recognizes Bill Shinari. Town manager.
Thank you. Wow, can hear me tonight. I am Bill Shinard, the town manager. I guess I want to just make sure I understand your question. Are you asking what the cost increases are or what the estimated fee increases?
So it would be two parts. If you could explain the increase in the cost through you to the moderator, and if in fact the annual premium is going to be increased.
So the answer to both is yes. The costs they vary because there's basically 4 different categories. So we have recycling pickup, we have recycling tipping fees, we have trash pickup, and trash tipping fees. The pickup costs are going up 4%. The tipping fees are going up, for recycling, are going up 2.5%. And I believe the tipping fees for the trash are also going up 2.5%. I wish I had that one in front of me because that's a long-term contract that I don't look at frequently. But and we are estimating, and I'll have the treasurer collector wave at me a $10 increase in the fee. Yes. Okay.
All right.
Chair recognizes.
Thank you very much.
Any other further discussion or questions? The motion has been made by Christie and advisory. Just requires a simple majority. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 2. Oh, we did Article 2, right? Article 19. Chair recognizes Tim Landy from advisory.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town rescind the following amounts previously authorized, but unused debt, which are no longer needed for the purpose of which they were initially approved. The amounts are $1,248,266, approved November 12, 2013 on warrant Article 21, Action 9 for the purpose of school roofs. The next one is $100,000, approved May 8th, 2018, warrant 20, Article 8 for Ludham's Dam.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor by the motion of Tim Landy on Article 19, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 17. Chair recognizes Select Person John Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Move the town appropriate $61,140,000 to design and construct a new public safety building complex for both police department and fire department on Washington Street and a fire department substation on School Street, Route 27. And for the payment of all other costs incidental and related thereto, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow $61,140,000 under General Law, Chapter 44, Subsection 7-1, or any other enabling authority, and that the select board is authorized to execute any and all documents, agreements, and instruments to take all other action necessary or convenient to accomplish the foregoing, provided, however, that this vote shall not take effect until the town votes to exempt from the limitation on total taxes imposed by General Law, Chapter 59, Subsection 21C, Proposition 2.5, amounts required to pay the principal of the interest on the borrowing authorized by this vote.
Has been made and seconded. The chair recognizes Bill Chenard.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So we have prepared a short video, and I've requested the moderator allow us to play that to this evening. He has approved that. We felt as a committee that that was the easiest way to demonstrate all of the needs and have a discussion to introduce this evening. So without further ado.
Public safety departments are predominantly police and fire departments. You know, you see them as a public, you know, when they're responding to an emergency or an accident or a fire or ambulance service, but they do so much more for our community. From police and, you know, dealing with opioid addiction to fire and dealing with fire prevention and teaching our students in the schools. It's just amazing what they can do in both of those departments. Every single staff member in those departments is completely dedicated, beyond dedication, to their jobs. Both of our stations, police station, fire station, are decades old. They have significant maintenance issues. The departments, they were built at a time where, you know, the services were very, very different and were completely adequate at that time. Under today's service models, they're not. You know, both stations are undersized. Both stations, you know, have issues with deferred maintenance. The fire department has issues with safety for both the firefighters and the public.
Building is just not conducive to modifying the electrical system, the way the building was constructed. You know, it's a concrete building. Same with the plumbing. It's not as easy just to run a new pipe. It's just not physically possible in this building. Space challenges that we have here are astronomical. We're limited storage out here. Our turnout gear is on the wall, exposed to all of the diesel dust. Folks, when they get their gear to go onto a call, they actually have to climb over vehicles to get to their fire apparatus. They have to try to wiggle through, shimmy through, whack your knees off of bumpers, and hopefully you don't trip on the floor drains that are protruding from the floor because the concrete's all spalling and collapsing under trucks. On the living side of the building itself, very limited storage. Back in 1975, we had 3 folks in the building. Today, on a day shift, we have 11.
We're much more of an EMS-based system now. We focus more on public education, teaching classes, fire prevention, and community outreach. And unfortunately, the building right now limits the amount that we can interact with the residents of Pembroke. There are no female sleeping quarters. There's no female locker rooms, female showers. So again, as the fire services continue to develop and become more modern, we've been welcoming more and more women into the fire service. Unfortunately, now Pembroke doesn't have any female firefighters. The last female left in 2021 to go to a neighboring community. So those are things that we as a fire department should be more open to welcoming females and giving them the services that are required.
The ability for our officers on a daily basis to do their job or just interact in the station is hampered significantly by the nature of this building. One of the big deficiencies is the access to the building for the members of the community. Access for the officers, just the back parking lot when you pull in, the lack of parking space, the lack of security for this building and the parking areas, which need to be secured sometimes because of the nature of the business that we do. We don't have a proper training room. We don't have a roll call room where we can communicate between shifts.
So we lack handicap accessibility, which is huge. We lack restrooms. We have one male and one female restroom on the main floor.
The building just lacks space, and space is taken up through growth, and growth is not just the people that come into this building, the police officers, the men and women, but the storage space that requires us by law, whether it's evidence, whether it's recovered property, whether it's records. We have a room that's basically, it's an attic, and it's not insulated properly, so it gets really hot during the summer and really cold during the winter, and some of that evidence is compromised because of the lack of a controlled environment. We had a cold case, murder case back 30 plus years ago where evidence was taken during this murder case, and the state had preserved that evidence. And if that was something that was relied on us to preserve, that probably would not have been resolved through DNA, because the situation with our property and evidence room would not be in the conditions to preserve something 30 plus years.
We've taken a look at where we're at from a model standpoint, and I know it's been discussed. Different committees have looked at separate buildings for police and fire. Really, the model that's out there right now is a joint public safety building, and there's a lot of advantages to doing that.
Us sharing the same footprint with the fire department, which we have a great working relationship, and be able to save space when it comes to common areas that we can share, i.e. the gym, training rooms, things of that nature, and then have a community room which we can share with the community, which is like something we don't have in this town now to begin with. The community center will help that, but it would not be as good as what we want for when it comes to training. The ability to have an emergency operations center where our PEMA team can meet along with other figureheads from the town during these type of operations. We don't have that. Right now we rely on cell phones and radios to communicate. And if the grid's down, there goes the ability to have certain parts of that communication when it comes to radios. And we have to depend on fossil fuel to run generators that don't always work.
Fortunately, we have an excellent relationship with the fire department. So that would be one of my top priorities, is being close to them. If we receive a 911 call, we can just tell them in the next room exactly what's going on. There's no delay in, calling over on the telephone. I think it's more efficient. There's one building. We probably only need one set of IT coming in. I just think financially it makes sense to have one building.
As far as the public goes, we'll be able to host classes. We're moving forward in the future. That's our intent here at the fire department, is to offer safety classes, CPR classes open to the public, where that would be a prime facility, to be able to hold those classes. And also have other classes come in and use it as a venue to train us and the police department, whether it's separate or together. So the building itself, it's a twofold thing. So as far as employee recruitment and employee retention, if you get up every morning to come to work in a facility that's not so great and maybe not safe for you, bad air we'll call it, you might look to go to another department or a different community that prepares a little bit more for their employees or puts a little bit more effort into providing facilities that will keep employees longer. And also it's the same for recruiting new employees. They might take a pass.
I look at this as, if I was a resident, what would I want in my town when it comes to a good education with the school system, public safety, and what that means. And the optic, well, what means to have public safety. Is it a building? Is it the people that work inside of it? Is it both? Right now I can tell you that it's the people that work inside that make it happen, but it should be both, because if you don't take care of the people that are taking care of you, then what do you expect to have for that resource to help you when they don't feel like they have the tools to do their job completely? And eventually it becomes a morale issue, and then you don't attract the right people for that job. So public safety will definitely take a hit down the road. We're not there yet, but I think of this as, you have to think, what are we going to do like 5 years from now?
Our public safety staff deserves a new building. And on the site plans, we're looking at a station at Washington and Barker at the intersection there, virtually across the street from our current Station 3. And then we have a station planned as a satellite station on School Street adjacent to Monroe Street, also on property that the town already owns. So we're not buying any property the town has bought, and we already own all the property where we're planning this. I know there's a lot of discussion about the Turner House. I mean, ultimately the HDC has jurisdiction over that area because it's in the Historic District Commission. They've given us permission to move the house, and we're planning to move forward with that.
Right now, we respond out of the station on Center Street. We have to cover the whole town from that station. This new project will significantly improve our response times. It'll put the majority of the town in less than 5-minute response time area, which is significantly important. Today's fires burn much hotter and faster than they have in the past, which means our firefighters need to get on scene much quicker. Medical emergencies is another important area. More than 75% of our call volume is medical emergencies. We have overdoses, cardiac arrest, diabetic emergencies. In all these emergencies, time makes a big difference. In the case of a cardiac arrest, your chances of survival decrease by every minute. So that's why when we talk about improving our response time by 2 or 3 minutes to a vast majority of this town, it will make a big difference. When we have a station at Route 53 and Barker Street, we'll be able to significantly improve our response times to the northern part of town, which over the years has really built up. We have a very high call volume from that area. And the same goes with the school in Monroe Street. It will significantly improve our response times to the southern part of the community. With this new plan, everywhere in town will be covered within 7 minutes, which is really important. The vast majority of the response time will be less than 5 minutes. So these response times will save lives.
The total project cost is $61,140,000, and then that's broken out to just over $42 million in actual construction costs. The average taxpayer cost is about $45 to $48 a month. That is $545 to $586 a year on your tax bill. May 9th, town meeting, 7 o'clock at Pembroke High School will be the vote for the appropriation. And then there'll be a required Proposition 2.5 debt exclusion vote on May 13th at the annual town election. We would certainly ask for the public support for our firefighters and our police officers, and our public safety deserve the best we can offer.
So the motion has been made by Select Board Member Brown, and it is up to you. If there is any question, discussion, now's the time. The chair, I don't have the lights on.
George Emanuel.
George Emanuel.
Forest Street, yes.
Former
Has
member
this
of Firefighters.
plan been run by the ISO Insurance Service Office?
Chair would recognize Bill Chenard.
So we've done response times, but ISO has not reviewed it. They won't review it unless it's approved.
So we
Chair
have to approve
recognizes
it first,
Well,
right? And then they're going to look into whether they're going to approve it.
Well, ISO will do a rating for the community. It's not something that happens automatically. I mean, the insurance companies will use the ISO to rate the community. Response times is obviously, we've talked about that in several meetings, a portion of that. I'm trying to think. And do you want to augment that?
Chair recognizes Chief Viveras.
There was a study done, I believe, back in 2017. One of the things that was looked at was the response times. This plan does improve the response time significantly throughout the community in areas, especially, we know that especially during the daytime hours, almost 70% of our calls are in the northern part of the town where the response times are extended. ISO scores, there's a multitude of things that go into your ISO rating. Response times is only one of them. But overall, this plan improves the response time when you look at the community as a whole.
Chair recognizes Alan Peterson.
Beard.
That's right. Chair recognizes Alan Peterson from High Street.
Alan Peterson, 176 High Street. I was facility director 15, 20 years ago. I've been inside those buildings. There's no debate that the buildings needed repairs and replacement then. But I think there's $8 to $10 million of pretty design, or maybe not best use of existing asset in a plan that calls for 2 new buildings. So I'd like to ask through you, Mr. Moderator, to people on boards, a few questions that may help clarify whether my insight will sway my vote or whether the bases have all been covered.
So the chair would just respond that that's certainly in order. Again, like the previous speaker in the previous article, we can't have a one-on-one that goes on all evening. So I just ask you to keep your questions pointed and not to repeat. Chair recognizes Alan Peterson.
The existing fire station, while it does have some cosmetic or slightly structural issues, it can be rehabbed, and no one could tell me what it would be used for if it were abandoned in favor of a new building a mile or 2 closer to the southern end of town. Did anybody look at the cost for rehabbing that building and using that as a substation?
Chair recognizes Bill Chenard.
So that was indeed part of the study, and it was determined that that was not feasible, that the building is structurally becoming unsound. So to rehab it, you would have to tear it down and build another building. And what you would do is you would lose that response time to the entire southern section. Putting the substation on Monroe, on 27 at the intersection of Monroe, improves that response time to the entire southern portion of our community. And so there are significant issues in that building. We had a couple of public forums where we showed those. The information's been on the website. I have it this evening. It is about an hour-long presentation if everybody wants to see it.
Just remember, Alan, you have to speak through the chair. The chair recognizes Alan Peterson.
Yeah, I trust the judgment of the professionals in making these things. So the question I asked at the public hearings I did go to was what would become of that fire station. And now clearly hearing that the fire station should be torn down, it wouldn't be suitable for anything even like a DPW garage, because our DPW garage predates all of those buildings. So we were looking at another 40 or 60 million another few years from now, because escalation costs go up and bigger is better. So I just wanted to be aware that I think that building could be saved. I'd be very surprised if someone who wants to repurpose it decides to tear it down. But that's $8 million on this project that I think could have been avoided.
Chair recognizes, if you could state your name.
Allison Gray. I also live on Monroe Street. First, I want to express my support for the proposed combined building. I'm all for that. I think the town needs it. My concern is with that proposed substation on the corner of Monroe and Route 27. The substation that's proposed is only 1.7 miles from the current fire station on Center Street. So I don't see it improving the response time to the southern end of Pembroke all that much. Monroe Street is a busy street already. I've talked to the town manager multiple times about the safety issues on Monroe Street, and adding more speeding vehicles down Monroe Street just doesn't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic due to the Tubbs entrance on Monroe Street and all of the cul-de-sacs that filter off of Monroe Street. The other question I have is very similar to the previous gentleman, where, how is that? I don't want to see another vacant building in town center, just like we had with the community center that took forever to get approved. And if that substation cannot be used as a substation, is it just going to sit there vacant forever? Because that doesn't look good for the town either. I think that it just doesn't seem fiscally responsible for us to not look at that current site to be used as a substation. If we can't address these concerns with the substation tonight, I would like to see if maybe we can split this amendment in some way so that at least we can get the joint building passed potentially, and then address the substation issue later.
Chair recognizes.
Is that it?
Why not?
Well, the chair can't compel. Well, there were several questions. Okay, the chair can't compel anyone to. Okay, so go ahead, Chair. I'm sorry, Allison.
To whoever addresses this, is that if building a substation on Monroe Street and 27, how is that going to potentially impact the regrading and resurfacing of Monroe Street that's planned?
Is this, okay. I am happy to inform you that the DPW director and I actually had a discussion about Monroe Street, and we are about to complete the planning for that, about to apply for the Chapter 90 funding, and it will likely be paved and improved this paving season. Am I correct? You just wave if I'm wrong. Yes, if I'm right, thank you. So Monroe Street is ahead of this project. Monroe Street, you will start to see improvements to Monroe Street this summer.
So there were several questions about splitting the vote, but again, the chair can't, or splitting the project, but the chair can't compel.
The other gentleman at the microphone, Mr. Moderator.
Okay. Chair recognizes, if you could say your name.
Mark Esrao, 70 Hamilton Drive. Been in EMS for 30 years, fire service for 24. I support the motion to move the station forward. As far as her answer, I don't know if I'm out of order responding to it as an expert in this field, but putting a station at Monroe Street, at School Street, would definitely decrease the response times. As far as the traffic on Monroe Street, as being an EMS provider, the likelihood of those units responding down Monroe Street to go anywhere in the city or town is unlikely. They're going to take the fastest, most direct route, which would be main roads and not traveling through residential neighborhoods. The last thing anybody wants to do is to go through a residential neighborhood, lights and sirens with an ambulance or a fire truck, if that answers your question.
Answers part
Well,
of it.
you have to. Chair, will give you one more opportunity, and then you can, welcome to speak again, but we need to switch it up. Chair recognizes Allison.
The other question is about leaving another vacant building in the center of town. So I would like to see or hear what the plans are for that, because there's also several other fire stations, I believe, sprinkled throughout town that are still there but not used.
Chair recognizes Bill Shinard.
So the town currently has 3 stations. We have the main station on Center Street. We have a station on Washington Street across the street from the proposed new public safety building. And we have a station in Bryantville. The Washington Street station and the Center Street stations, I would be recommending to the select board and this body that we divest, that we sell those properties, and we don't need that. The Bryantville station also serves as our food pantry, the only food pantry that we have in the town of Pembroke. And although we would no longer cease to have fire operations at that building, I would recommend that we keep that building for the food pantry. The food pantry has received several state earmarks and grants that have improved that facility with refrigeration and freezers, and we're moving forward with some other improvements to that building as a result of some earmarks. So I will be recommending that we actually keep that building as the food pantry.
Chair recognizes Deputy Chief Jim Shea. No, the chair recognizes people in the order, not those who have not previously spoken, so.
Jim
we'll
Shea,
get
Blue
back
Jay
to you.
Way, also a member of the Public Safety Building Committee. Just to answer some of the other speakers' questions in regards to Monroe Street, the town manager hit it on the head as far as liquidating more or less the current Center Fire Station. That station at the end of the day needs to be bulldozed. Once, if this project was to pass, that station would be, we would vacate the station. The station at that point is no longer suitable for rehab, for renovation, or anything. It requires a complete demolition. And any fire station that would have to be built on that site, if that was a thought, would have to come up to current codes, which the lot itself probably isn't big enough for. You know, that was looked at all along. It's just the building is too far gone. Whatever goes there needs to be raised, so therefore would be most likely liquidated by the town. So back in 2017, the Space and Needs Committee, which I was not a part of, had the engineering firm come in. They did the station, the headquarters station and the police station, and that was part of their report, was that the town has these buildings, specifically the fire station, that is not able to be rehabbed. It's not able to be added to without a complete renovation or a complete replacement of all of the systems, which at the end of the day is a complete demolition of the building starting from scratch. As far as the other concerns that the Monroe Street resident had, if you move all of our operations to the Washington Street site, where the new public safety center would be, getting to the end of Monroe Street, getting to the far end of School Street, getting to Plymouth Street, you can't do that from Washington Street by itself. It would be 100% irresponsible of the town, of the fire department itself, to take all of our operations and move it to the north end of town. Therefore, basically saying, the heck with the south end of town. Where at night, that's where we go most of the time because everyone's home from work, so most of our responses are to the southern end of town. During the day, we go up north. At night, we go to everyone's houses. That's what I have as far as that. I hope that answers some of her questions that she has as far as...
Thank you. And again, the chair's just going to rotate to those who either have not spoken or haven't spoken recently, so not slighting you. We'll go to Alan Peterson.
Still haven't had the one question
No,
answered about what happens to that building.
We have to do this in order. And so the chair recognizes Alan Peterson.
The town will sell it. They'll be allowed to sell it. The question about the police station now comes up. What would happen to that?
Chair recognizes Bill Shinar.
So it will be my recommendation for the police station that the town retain that property. The police station, although it is inadequate and doesn't function as a current modern-day police station because of its size, it would function for office space, which we are starved for at Town Hall.
Thank you. And
Chair recognizes Alan Peterson.
Through the moderator again to appropriate people. The design of the proposed building seems to be in keeping with historic requirements of a shingle roof with white clapboard siding. Those are wonderful designs in historic buildings, but when you're building a new public safety building that you'd like to see last at least 50 years, perhaps even 100 years, brick and mortar and metal roofs last a lot longer and a much better investment for your first construction dollar. Is the town prohibited from building the most sustainable type building because of historic district requirements?
So that's
Chair recognizes Bill Shinar.
Yeah, that's a very difficult question to answer. I don't know that prohibited. I think that they would, they certainly would be asking us to provide a historic building within the Historic District Commission, so that we meet their guidelines, and we will have to meet their guidelines and their approval as we finalize this plan. Trust me when I say it looks pretty and it looks historic from the outside, but behind those exterior walls is lots of steel and modern building technology that will make that building have a sustainable life of significant decades.
Chair recognizes
Steve Enright, Plymouth Street. Can we move the question?
The motion to move the question is almost always in order. It's certainly in order now. So if it takes a simple majority, if it passes, then we will go right to the vote. If it does not pass, I'm sorry, but not the motion to move the question. Move the question is majority, right? Yeah. So all those in favor of Steve Enright, right? Motion to move the question, which means we'll go right to the debate, right to the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it. I declare it so voted. So we will. This does require a 2/3. We'll try it first with a show of hands. If it is at all close, then we'll go to a standing vote because there's a lot at stake here, and bond council and town council and everyone needs to make sure we get this correct. So we'll first do it by show of hands. All those in favor of the article of the motion made by John Brown on Article 17, please raise your hands. All those opposed, please raise your hands. The ayes have it, and we're going to go to a standing. Not so. So it would appear as if it's 2/3. However, there was a significant amount of those who voted against. So in order to do this correctly, so there's no question, we will do a standing vote. But before the tellers count, everyone sitting in the back has to be seated. Again, it's important that the vote be accurate and not be questioned, and there were those voting against. So, and it's an important matter, obviously. So we want to make sure we get it right. So the tellers all know where they're voting, and so all those who are in favor of the motion, please stand and remain standing until counted. Again, the chair is reminded that if you want to be counted, you must be at your chair standing, not at the back, not anywhere else. At a chair, standing.
So Matt, if you want to just say your name and the vote.
Mr. Moderator, Matt Newman, 183 High Street. Voting yes, 86.
That's not the final. Just one teller. So, okay. Okay, just your name and the number.
Karen Wright, yes, 40, no, 14.
There was no votes. There's no no's.
40, sorry guys. 40 for yes.
So how many more are we waiting for?
We're waiting for Chris.
Okay. Take your time, Chris.
No pressure. Chris got it. 89 or yes.
Here, just write on the microphone. Your name and the vote.
Chris, 89 yes.
Okay, you can be seated, and all those opposed, please rise and remain standing until counted. So
Mr. Moderator, Matt Newman, 11.
Chris Frazier, 38 no.
Karen Wright, 13 no.
On this matter, 215 voting in the affirmative, 62 in the negative. Having reached the necessary two-thirds necessary for passage, the chair declares it so voted. And the town clerk reminds me that this is also subject to a ballot question that is on the ballot for Saturday, and the polls open at what time? 9 to 7, and absentee voting ends Friday at 5. At what hours in the town clerk's office? Friday at 5. But what are the hours of the town clerk's? Which is? 4:30, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday here till 5. Andy, why don't you repeat that, just so everyone knows what the hours are?
So regular business hours, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 8 to 4:30, and then Friday we'll be there till 5, 8 to 5. And just the clerk's office will be open after 12. You can't pay your water bill after 12 on Friday.
Okay, thank you. Just before we go to the next item, you know, on these matters, they take quite a bit of work that's done behind the scenes. And there is a public safety building committee, and it's comprised of Bill Chenard and Chief McDonald and Chief Viveros and select board member John Brown. They're paid to do their job, and they all do a good job. But there's also members who are not paid, who is strictly volunteer, and the chair would like to recognize them. They include Sharon McNamara, Stephen Roundtree, Robert Inglis, Nicholas Konarski, John McGrath, David Ponte, Stephen Walsh, and we also miss, the Deputy Chief James Shea. And no matter where you stand on the issue, there is a tremendous amount of work. The WATD did a great forum last weekend, and there were several members of the building committee, and some of them said that they have been giving out their own personal cell phone numbers and literally spending hours on the phone with people who had questions, legitimate questions about this very expansive plan. So the chair would just like to take a moment. They have businesses to run, they have lives to lead, their mothers, their fathers. The chair would just like to ask you to take a moment to thank them. Article 6 is the next item of business. And the chair recognizes Liz Bonatti from Advisory Committee. And this is your, am I going to be wrong in saying this is, no, you? Second meeting, okay.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town appropriate and transfer from free cash the sum of $125,000 to be added to the other post-employment benefits liability fund established by the vote of Article 11 of the April 24, 2012 annual town meeting. And further, that the sum of $125,000 be appropriated $175,000, excuse me, be appropriated and transferred from free cash to the Separation Pay Benefits Fund established by the vote of Article 16 of the November 4th, 2003 special town meeting, and further that the sum of $50,000 be appropriated and transferred from free cash to be added to the Capital Stabilization Fund established by the vote of Article 22 of the May 8th, 2018 town meeting, and that the sum of $50,000 be appropriated and transferred from free cash to the Stabilization Fund, and further that the sum of $25,000 be appropriated and transferred from free cash to the Special Injury Leave Fund established by the vote of Article 7 of the May 9, 2017 town meeting, and further that the sum of $50,000 be appropriated and transferred from free cash to the Workers' Compensation Insurance Fund established by the vote of Article 4 of the October 24th, 2017 town meeting.
Is there a second? Chair hears second. Any discussion on this item? Takes a simple majority. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 10. Chair recognizes Lance Kennedy from chairing, right, of the school committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Move that the town vote pursuant to GL Chapter 71, Section 14, to form a regional school district planning committee for the purpose of exploring the town's membership in the South Shore Regional Vocational Technical School District.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the article and the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 11. Chair recognizes John Scholl from Advisory.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move to accept the provisions of MGL C-140, subsection 139C, relative to dog license fees, so as to provide that no fee shall be charged for a license for a service animal as defined by the American with Disabilities Act and dogs owned by a person aged 70 years or over, and further to amend Article 20, Section 7, Paragraph A of the bylaws of the Town of Pembroke entitled Police Regulations by adding the words shown in bold as printed in the annual town meeting warrant.
Any discussion by the motion which has been made and seconded by Advisory? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. We did Article 1. Article 3. Chair recognizes Tim Landy from Advisory.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town appropriate the sum of $2,650,901 from the water revenue to fund the fiscal year 2024 Water Enterprise Fund, as shown in the Appendix C of the 2023 annual town meeting warrant.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 18. This is a petition article. The chair recognizes one of the petitioners, former selectman Vincent Cogliano.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town authorize the Select Board to file a petition with the General Court for a special act to amend Chapter 356 of the Acts of 1983 as follows. A, amend the last sentence of the first paragraph of Section 2 by deleting the reference to 14 days and replacing it with 30 days, and by deleting the reference to 26% and replacing it with 10%, such that this sentence shall read, "The recall petition shall be returned and filed with the town clerk within 30 days after the filing of the affidavit and shall have been signed by at least 10% of the qualified voters of the town, who shall add to their signatures and street and number, if any, of their residences." And B, amend the fourth sentence of Section 6 by deleting the phrase, "At least 40% of those entitled to vote shall have voted," such that this sentence shall read, "If a majority of the votes cast upon the question of recall is in the affirmative, the candidate receiving the highest number of votes shall be declared elected." And C, strike the first sentence of Section 3 and replace it with the following. "If the petition shall be found and certified by the town clerk to be sufficient, they shall submit the same with their certificate to the Select Board without delay, and said board shall forthwith give written notice of the receipt of the certificate to the officer sought to be recalled, and shall, if the officer does not resign within 5 days thereafter, order the recall election to be held at the next scheduled town election, provided the next town election is scheduled more than 35 days from the date said officer resigns or refuses to resign." This article I'm sorry.
Second first. Is there a second? Chair is second. Chair recognizes Vince Cogliano.
Okay, we have a point here from town council. Did I miss something? Okay. 64 days. Okay. Okay. So the last sentence is, provided the next town election is scheduled more than 64 days from the date said officer resigns or refuses to resign. This article is simply to get us in compliance with the other towns, on the South Shore. The 40% requirement of voters to turnout is impossible to reach, that threshold. We've never done it as a town, we never could. So this simply says that we're more in line with what other towns are doing, and it makes it easier for voters to recall a town official if that becomes necessary. It's certainly something we hope never happens, but voters should have the opportunity to do that if they feel that something has happened that really calls for that action to be taken. So it simply gives us the power to do, what we need to do under these circumstances.
Chair recognizes Sue Renee.
Hi, Mr. Moderator. Sue Renee, Pleasant Street. I would like to make a motion to amend the recall warrant by adding a just cause clause as it is read. Reason for recall: any holder of an elected office in the town of Pembroke who has held an elected town-wide office and whose term of office extends beyond the new annual town election may be recalled therefrom by the registered voters of the town as herein provided for reasons of 1, conviction of a felony or conviction of the following misdemeanors as defined by the Massachusetts general laws: domestic violence, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, the illegal manufacture, distribution, or dispensing of controlled substances, assault or criminal harassment while presently in office, or 2, admission to the facts while presently in office sufficient to be convicted of a felony or sufficient to the convicted of the following misdemeanors as defined in Massachusetts general laws: domestic violence, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, the illegal manufacture, distribution, or dispensing of controlled substances, assault or criminal harassment, or 3, was found in violation of the conflict of interest in Mass law. Interest law, Mass General Law 268A, while presently in office as determined by the State Ethics Commission or the Attorney General. 4, attended less than 50% of the posted public meetings of the board or office of which the official was elected an elected member or to which he or she has been elected or appointed as part of his or her elected position during the previous 12 months. 5, lack of fitness, insobriety while performing official functions, involuntary commitment to a mental health facility, being placed under guardianship or conservatorship by the probate court. Or 6, corruption, conviction of a felony involving moral turpitude, conviction of bribery or extortion. Or 7, violation of law, regulation, bylaw, or other abdication of the applicable requirements for the elected position. The elected official's vote on a matter other than the connection with a conflict of interest violation referenced above shall not be grounds for a recall petition.
Is there a second to Sue? So just so, first of all, we need that in writing, Sue. And again, for clarification, certainly the chair would ask you to speak to the amendment, but the chair wasn't clear. Is this amending the existing language, the motion offered by Vince Cogliano, or is it adding something to it?
Amending to Vince's. Amending to what Vince just said.
But what we're not clear on is it additional language or is it
Additional
striking?
language.
It's additional language?
Yes.
To what he's offered? Okay. Actually, before Don, do you want to address the amendment? Yeah. So the chair, it's obviously a long amendment. So the chair would ask Sue Renee to address the amendment.
Yes. So as Vince said, to fall in line with what the other towns are doing, other towns have added this amendment language as well, so that people aren't recalled for not have a vote that is unpopular. So it's added to protect the integrity of the person as an elected official, but yet if they're not doing their job as an elected official.
Chair recognizes Don Bryant.
Hello, my name is Don Bryant. I live on Mountain Avenue. To address the amendment that's being made, to the degree that I have studied surrounding towns in the South Shore area, but more broadly speaking, this is a very rare amendment that's being made. It actually includes some kind of legal, medical kind of interference or condition that actually perhaps, we're talking about breaking law. We're not talking about malfeasance in office. In the eyes of the town gets to determine what it believes is a violation of office sufficient to rise to the level of a recall. I believe, if I'm correct, that what was read to you earlier is the provisions of the town of Hanson, if I'm correct. Hanson and Norwell have such provisions. Hanson is a bit more severe than Norwell is. Those are the only two towns in our immediate area that have any kind of determination of that nature. Other towns do not mention any kind of standard at all, except in the eyes of the voters who believe that the conduct of the town official, elected town official, is such in their eyes that requires them to be removed from office. In effect, as I understand the amendment, for one to be recalled from office, one either has to be indicted or found guilty of a criminal violation, to require some kind of intervention of a medical condition, or alcoholism, or, and I think everyone would agree, a pure absenteeism. They don't show up. That can actually be determined by the wisdom of the town. So in this case, I'd say we need to reject the very narrow definition that's only determined by two of the towns in the South Shore community and reflect the broader conditions that represent the 351 municipalities in Massachusetts.
Chair recognizes Bob DiMarzio, former selectman.
Mr. Moderator,
We did realize many years ago it's impossible to recall anybody as the bylaw existed. I don't want to say I'm confused by the amendment, but I'm almost confused, but I'm not. I can't support it, and Mr. Bryan said many of my thoughts, but we can do all those things as far as recalling somebody based on that. But we don't have to wait till they're convicted, which could be 5 years down the road. So I think it's only designed to make this so it's not a workable recall petition, and I would ask everybody to vote against the amendment and vote for the article.
Chair recognizes Becky Coletta, member of the Select Board.
Speak against the,
I think it's on.
Hi. I would speak against this petition. We have before us 5 members of our select board. We have 3-year terms, and they're staggered. And they're staggered so that you always have an experienced select board. You never sort of wholesale lose that experience from year to year. If there's something that you don't like about one of us, there's 4 other people here to outvote that person. I think this petition is about being disruptive in local government. In Hanson, they had a very disruptive process in which people were recalled. Later, town meeting determined to add a just cause provision, which apparently is similar to what Ms. Renee was speaking for as an alteration of the citizens petition. Just cause says we don't just decide that we didn't like the outcome of an election we lost. We can wait until the person comes up for election again, unless they do something that truly is cause, meaning illegal conduct, not showing up to do your job, doing something really extreme, because recalls are very extreme measures. There's something that disrupts the whole way that we have put in bylaws to allow for people to take office over time, for people to serve 3 years, so that in your first year you may not understand a town budget. Town budgets are extremely confusing. We spend a lot of time from year to year talking about town budgets. We've spent a lot of time talking about our roadway management program. We've come up with a capital improvement plan for roadway management. Do people know that we actually funded over $1.5 million in pavement that is going to start this spring? Small projects started in the fall, but by the time fall meeting happened, they're really starting this spring. These are things that the select board does because we spend time in meetings, week after week after week, getting informed about our town government. We are, several of us have followed the public safety building project over several years, other projects over several years. Recalls are very disruptive, and they should only be for good cause or overwhelming support of the town. If somebody goes streaking through the town, I dare say that you might actually get 40% of the people to show up and say, we need to get rid of this person. Otherwise, I think we should let the natural process play out, and we have elections for a reason, and elections have meaning, and experience has meaning. Because the town isn't just about 1 or 2 issues. It's about depth of knowledge, of budgets, of planning, and of the needs of our town. And that happens over time. Thank you.
Chair recognizes next speaker.
So Killam, 207 Edgewater Drive.
Melissa?
Kilham, yeah, Killam. I just want to speak in support. I understand that our current language is we're never going to get to that number. I understand the need for this. However, I believe that we should take the amendment, as Sue Renee said, because we need objective data on to have someone recall. We have to remember, we've been very concerned about how much money we're spending, but yet each recall costs over $20,000. So I do not want on a whim, because someone is frustrated about the last vote, that they will have a political thing against one person. I think we need objective data. It needs to be due to criminality or something as stated in her amendment. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Select Board Member Steve Ciotti.
Testing. I support the citizens petition without the amendment. I actually agree with a lot of what fellow Select Board Member Becky Coletta said regarding the experience needed by the Select Board and everything that we go over. I think we can agree with that. My understanding is that this would just put us in line with surrounding towns, which does not seem unreasonable to me. And beyond that, there's a number of reasons, agree with Mr. Bryant, that the wisdom of the town can cover not only all the things that are suggested by the amendment, but also if a Select Board member or another member of another board or, for example, elected a position has misrepresented themselves. And that might be something that the town cares about that doesn't rise to the narrow amendment. So I support the citizens petition without the amendment. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Don Bryant.
Mr. Moderator, once again, to address the issue, Hanson and Norwell are it. And those aren't the only fair towns on the South Shore. Is that each town has within its own citizenship the wisdom that it needs when it comes to the conviction that malfeasance of some nature in office should incline us to withdraw approval of an elected official and to hold a special election, have an election. And by the way, this will not cost extra money. This is at a regularly town scheduled election. So it's no extra money involved in this kind of event. It's surely a citizens' initiative. I would ask our town simply to come in line with the practices of the surrounding towns, and pretty much you can, I think, calm any town down if you say any response to an official in terms of a recall petition is off the boards, only if it's involved what is substantially comes down to an illegality. I think that's unfair to the citizens, and it narrowly restricts us in our alternatives and our options. Thank you.
State your point of order.
I have a clarifying question of what was just said by the gentleman.
Well,
Can I not ask clarification on the bill? Because he stated it wouldn't be a recall.
So it's not a point of order.
Okay.
So the chair will give you every opportunity to address that, but the chair would like to recognize people in the order in which they've spoken and with preference to people who haven't spoken. So just so we get it all in. The chair recognizes Tim Landy.
Tim Landy, Oakland Square. So the way this reads, the original amendment, is that means 10% of the electorate would have to sign the ballot. You said earlier the electorate in Pembroke is 19,000 some odd? All right, so 14,500. So that means that roughly, 1,400 would have to sign this. So the question before all of us is, do we trust our neighbors to be fair with each other? If you do, then vote the original one and vote for it. If you don't, then vote for the amendment, the second piece as well. That's the way I see it. All right, I think we're a community of reasonable people. We don't have to put these extra bounds on. We just need to know that we're all adults and we can trust roughly 1,400 people to do the right thing.
Chair
Thank you.
recognizes
Shauna Townley, Taylor Street.
Shauna.
I request we move to a vote.
Shauna moves the question. Again, most cases, the motion in this case is included. The motion to move the question is in order. It takes a majority vote. I'm sorry. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, so thank you, Town Council, for clarifying. This is only a motion to move the question on the amendment. We have two votes ahead of us. We have the amendment that was offered by Sue Renee. We have the main motion that was offered by Vince Cogliano. So this only affects the amendment by Sue Renee. And if the vote passes, we'll go right to, if the motion passes, we'll go right to the vote. If it doesn't, we'll continue debate. So on the motion to move the question on the amendment, all those in favor, please state your point of order. So we have the main motion by Vince Cogliano. We have an amendment to the main motion by Sue Renee. So, and Sue's language, well, Sue's language added another provision, if the chair is correct, to the main motion that Vince Cogliano made. So that additional provision is what we're voting on. We're only voting on whether to vote on the additional provision now or to continue debate on that, on the entire matter. So state your point of order.
Could you clarify what a yes vote for what we're moving will result in?
So, no. So there's been a motion to move the question, which is almost always in order. And so the motion to move the question, if it passes, means we go right to the vote on the amendment. So this is not a vote on the amendment or the main motion. It's only a vote to move the question, which means we either decide it now or we continue debate. So on the motion to move the question, which if it passes, we go right to a vote, those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it. So we will go to the question on the amendment offered by Sue Renee. Requires a simple majority vote. All those in favor of the amendment only, please raise your hand. All those opposed? The noes have it, and I declare it lost. So we can go right to the main motion, or it's still subject to debate if people have further questions or wish to debate further. Yeah. Chair recognizes, you can say your name.
Brooke Musial, Elm Street.
Brooke.
I have a question. So if this goes to a recall election, the petition has enough signatures, it goes to a recall election, is it just a simple majority in that election that would cause the person to be recalled?
The chair would answer in the affirmative.
Yes, Bill? Okay. So if we have, say, we have the election, we have 3,000 people come out and vote somebody into office, that person's in office. We could then have somebody submit a recall petition and have maybe 600 people come out, and if it's only 600 people that come out as opposed to that original 3,000, and we get a simple majority, then we're going to recall somebody. Correct?
It's 10% of the electorate.
That, the chair would answer in the affirmative.
Annual election.
Yes.
It's an annual election.
That's correct. So we could have a very small number compared to the original voting number, recall somebody. Okay, so I'm against this motion for that reason, as I think that it's unfair and disruptive to have such a small number of people potentially reverse the decision of a larger number of people.
Chair recognizes Bob DiMarzo.
I want to clarify that, and then maybe somebody else will move the motion. This is a vote at an annual election, am I correct? So it's not going to be a small amount of people. It's going to be a vote during an annual election that we're having Saturday. So it won't be 600 people. It'll be 700 people, the way we vote sometimes. But it'll be thousands of people. So it's not a rigged deal or anything like that. The electorate will have a chance to vote as they always do for somebody in office. And I'm sorry I can't move the motion and talk.
Chair recognizes Don Bryant.
Yes, I will move the question, please.
So Don Bryant moves the question, which again, if it passes, we will go right to the vote. If not, we'll continue debate. All those in favor of Don Bryant's motion to move the question, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. On the main motion offered by Vince Cogliano, takes a simple majority. We'll try it first with a show of hands. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Ooh, too close, too close. So we'll do a standing vote. And once again, if you're standing in the back, just ask you to come to a chair, and it appears as if we don't have the tellers in the room. Paging all tellers. Okay, we got all the tellers, we're ready to go. All those in favor of the main motion, please stand and remain standing until counted.
Karen Wright, 33, yes.
Chris Frazier, 43, yes.
Matt Newman, 32, yes.
You can be seated, and all those opposed to the main motion, please stand and remain standing.
Karen Wright, 10, no.
Chris Frazier, 34, no.
Matt Newman, 47, no.
Matt, we just need the sheet. Okay, just write it out. So 108, yes. So on this matter, 108 have voted in the affirmative, 91 in the negative. The motion passes, and I declare it so voted. Article 14. Chair recognizes the chairperson of the Community Preservation Committee, Lisa Cullity.
Mr. Moderator, move to appropriate the sum of $50,000 from the Community Preservation Fund, undesignated reserve fund, and that said funds be granted to the town manager for the purchase and installation of shade structures at town beaches, thereby preserving and rehabilitating land for recreational use.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted. Article 16. Chair recognizes Sandy Beaton from Advisory.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town bring to the election officers their vote all on one ballot for the officers and committees as printed in Article 16 of the 2023 annual town meeting warrant.
This is a routine article. The election is actually part of the warrant, which is why this is on here. All those in favor of the motion by Sandy Beaton, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Once again, the polls open at 9 o'clock on Saturday. Article 15. Chair recognizes Liz Benatti.
Mr. Moderator, move that the town hear and accept the reports of town officers, boards, and committees.
Chair apologizes. All those in favor of the motion by Liz Benatti, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Article 5.
Mr. Moderator.
Peterson.
Move that the town appropriate $7,251,197 for the capital projects set forth in Appendix E of the annual town meeting warrant, as revived on the handout distributed at town meeting entitled Article 5 Handout Capital. That to meet this appropriation, the town, 1, transfers $733,605 from the free cash for the projects and in the amounts listed as free cash under the columns funding source, as printed in Appendix E of the annual town meeting warrant, as revised on the handout distributed at town meeting entitled Article 5 Handout Capital. 2, authorize the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, to borrow $2,330,000 under Chapter 44, Section 7 of the general laws, or any other enabling authority for the projects and in the amounts listed as GF borrowing under the column funding source, as printed in Appendix E of the annual town meeting warrant, as revised on the handout distributed at town meeting entitled Article 5 Handout Capital, and in any bonds or notes issued for such projects shall be general obligations of the town, and debt service shall be payable from the general fund. 3, transfer $325,000 from the ambulance fund, revolving fund, for the purpose and in the amount listed as ambulance fund as under the column funding source, as printed in Appendix E of the annual town meeting warrant, as revised on the handout distributed at the town meeting entitled Article 5 Handout Capital. 4, transfer $80,000 from water fund retained earnings for the projects and the amounts listed as retained earnings under the column funding source, as printed in Appendix E of the annual town meeting warrant, as revised on the handout distributed at town meeting entitled Article 5 Handout Capital. 5, authorize the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, to borrow $3,700,000 under Chapter 44, Section 8 of the general laws, or any other enabling authority for the projects and in the amounts listed in water and borrowing under the column funding source, as printed in Appendix E of the annual town meeting warrant, as revised on the handout distributed at town meeting entitled Article 5 Handout Capital. And while any bonds or notes issued for such projects shall be general obligations of the town, debt service is expected to be paid from the Water Enterprise Fund. And 6, transfer $82,592 from unexpended proceeds of bonds dated February 10, 2017, which were authorized October 27, 2015, Article 12, Action 1, for Furnace Pond dredging engineering costs, which project is complete, and no liability remains for the project, and in the amounts listed as reappropriation under the columns funding source as printed on Appendix E of the annual town meeting warrant, as revived on the handout distributed at town meeting entitled Article 5, Handout Capital, and authorizes the town manager to take any other action necessary or convenient to carry out these projects.
Motion has been made. Motion has been made and seconded. The chair, it's been explained to the chair that there is virtually no difference between the orange sheet and what's printed in the warrant, except it's in alphabetical order and there was a duplicate. The chair is correct on that. So you're not missing anything if you don't have the orange sheet. The chair would also ask if there's a kitchen sink included in this list. Chair recognizes Andy Wandell from the Planning Board.
Andy Wandell, 319 Oldham Street. The number here, about 7.2 million, looks to be about 10% of the overall budget. Is there a rule of thumb for how much we spend each year as a percentage of the overall budget? This seems relatively high. I'm all for it, but will we need to spend this much money going forward for capital?
Chair recognizes Bill Chenard.
So our financial management principles talk about our debt. They don't talk about the overall capital that I'm aware of. There's a couple of items on here that are catch-up items, as you know, for water. And there are a couple items on here that we've had to move up a year because of the lead time in getting the product. It's almost an 18-month period, and I'll give you the example. The fire truck was originally scheduled for next year. We looked at that, and it's almost an 18-month period to actually get that in place. So we can't order it, unfortunately, unless we have an appropriation to do so. So to answer your question, there's some things on here that we wouldn't normally see year to year. And roadways. Roadways was the third item that we added because we wanted to make a commitment after we did the capital plan for the roadway management plan. As town manager, I have committed to making sure, based on that plan, that we spend a minimum of $1 million a year. There's a catch-up provision for that also, which is why you see the 680 for roadway improvements.
And Route 36 will be finished when?
So Route 36 is a very, very, very long project. Total about 4 years. Actually, so we'll start seeing paving in June, however. So it won't be done, but the current status of Route 36 will change in June.
Chair recognizes, if you could say your name.
Comfort,
Jean.
Adams Ave. I am just a little overwhelmed by the large volume of expense on here. And my question is, given the fact that there's just been a new lovely beach building built, there's been, the recreation center has been set up, that's very exciting. We're talking about an extensive public safety building that we're going to be building, very large impacts to the cost and the tax parameters for the citizens of this town. Has this list been reviewed and really thought thoroughly through as to what is necessary in the current year's budget appropriations? Or are there some things that might best be pushed a little ahead? I understand the highways or the roadways here are a big issue. I understand the water is a big issue. But there seems to be a lot of vehicles on here, a lot of computers. I don't know where I get my computers. They surely don't cost this amount of money. You know, so that's my ask. Is this fiscally responsible to add this in the current year, given all the other asks for public safety and public recreation and so forth?
Chair recognizes Select Board Member Steve Siciotti.
Yeah, so a lot of what the town has done over the years has kicked things down the road. No pun intended, I guess, considering the state of our roadways. But everything from the situations we've experienced with the water, the restrictions we've had to put on there, the state of our roads, for example, the public safety building, which was on identified police and fire we needed to replace back in 2004, over 20 years ago. The community center identified 20 years ago. So there are a lot of things coming up, for sure. But these are all things that have to be addressed. They've been needed to be addressed for many years, in some cases decades. The roads, for example, I don't remember the exact dollar amount in previous years put together for it, but I think it's $680,000 right now, which is more than we've seen recently also. So we're taking on the things that we need to bring our town back up to par. So we did review this. We've reviewed it very closely. We've been listening to the town. We completely understand, drive on the same roads, are under the same water restrictions, look at the same buildings that are crumbling and everything, and for how long they've been kicked down the road, we can't really kick them down the road any longer. And not only that, but over time, costs continue to go up. So the longer we continue to kick these things down the road, the more the costs are going to go up. So they should have been addressed sooner, earlier. We're addressing them now, and if we continue to kick some of them down, it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
Chair recognizes
191 Washington Street, Carrie McCall.
Terry?
Carrie.
Carrie.
I just have a quick question. So does this mean that we're borrowing approximately $6 million? And my question is on the interest rate for that $6 million. Is that already set, or is that something that we find out later?
Chair recognizes Bill Chenard.
So yes, it's split between, the majority of the borrowing is under the Water Enterprise Fund, which has been in that capital plan that we built a couple of years ago and have updated over the last 2 years. There's a ton of deferred items in water and pavement management that the town hasn't done. And to answer the question about how much we've spent prior to last year from the town budget on pavement management, it's been a long time since we've spent anything other than the Chapter 90 funds that we get from the state, which have, over the last 10 years, has ranged from about $430,000 to $540,000 with a little bit of RAP money that increased it during COVID. So we haven't spent a lot of money. We haven't kept up with our roadway management plan on that. So the answer is yes. There is significant borrowing, most of it on the water side. Rates are not set. Rates don't set until you go out to bid, and the companies bid on your projects. Indications are that the rates will be lower than I had initially thought, but higher than we got for the community center.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes, Chair apologizes. You have to write your name down. Your name down.
Jean.
Jean.
I just, again, I appreciate the fact that she brought up the $6 million of additional funds. But when, in putting together a business, part of running a business is planning and budgeting. And I'm looking here and I see that you've got repairs to a backhoe for $12,000. That's not part of the maintenance expenses that are included in the annual budget. You've got vehicles in the Department of the DPW. I understand that last year we bought 4 vehicles in this town for the Department of Public Highways. Is this that we really didn't do our fiscal responsibility for the last 20 years, and now all of a sudden in 5 years we're going to try to bunch it all up? Because I think there's a level of responsibility to the taxpayers that we need to be very fiscally responsible this year as well as going forward. That's my ask.
Chair recognizes Bill Chenard.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think the town owns a responsibility to the taxpayers to make sure that we manage our fiscal assets correctly. I will be here 3 years in 2 days. During that 3 years, we've changed our capital management policies. We've built the roadway management system so that we can properly, we're putting in place building maintenance systems so we do properly maintain our buildings as we move forward. It is my goal to do exactly that. I agree with you wholeheartedly. We have deferred in this town. This body, unfortunately, has played a role in that. Before my time, the Public Works Commissioners asked for significant money for paving the roadways and doing maintenance and keeping up with that, and this body said no. So the roads have gotten to a point where it's costing us more today. I don't know, at some point, come to a meeting or come talk to me, I'll talk to you about my fish graph. And what my fish graph does is, as the condition of the asset decreases, head of the fish, tail of the fish, the cost to replace that increases rapidly. You never want to go beyond that point. So roadways are a key factor in that. We've unfortunately let it go beyond that point where now it's costing us more to catch up with that. Same story for almost every single building asset. Roofs are the same way. If you don't timely replace a roof, your cost is not just the roofing material. The cost is your substrate. The cost is your installation below that is wet. The cost is your ceilings in those buildings. As your infrastructure deteriorates, your cost to replace increases. We need to get it before it gets to that point in this community. Let's do it right. And I'm asking you to support this. I know it's a big number. I know it is. It's not going to be that way. Water's going to have some big numbers, but we're not going to see these bigger numbers on all of our assets as we move forward. And to address the backhoe piece, that $12,000 plus replaces $185,000 because we looked at what we could do with our existing infrastructure and can we spend the money that's not in our budget to repair what we have versus buying a new piece for $185,000. So we're extending the useful life of an existing asset for just over $12,000 versus buying the new asset for $185,000.
Well, thank you. Thank you for hearing me, and thank you for listening and considering the voice of the taxpayers in this town to pass these budgets.
Is there any further discussion on this matter, which does require a two-thirds vote? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion by Linda Peterson, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please raise your hand. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted, having reached the two-thirds necessary for passage. Before Dan Trabucco offers a motion to adjourn the meeting, the chair just wants to thank you for your patience. We accomplished a tremendous amount in 2.5 hours. Please come back to the next session, whether it's the fall or next year. And thanks to all those, the town clerk and so many others who work behind the scenes to make the meeting go smoothly. Dan Trabucco offers a motion to adjourn the meeting. It's been seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and I declare it so voted, and the meeting is adjourned.